Round one, fight!
What if the fake news canceled the world's most beloved heroes? When a tragic attack ends the lives of precious innocents, our most celebrated heroes find themselves blamed and canceled by the media that once glorified them. Now in hiding, will they be able to trust each other long enough to prove their innocence? Well, they better fight as hard as they can, because if they don't, an even bigger tragedy is coming. And this time, it will cost millions of lives. Truth, Justice, American Way, the 64-page full-color graphic novel. Get yours today, only on Indiegogo. Way fans, it's time for Son of Art Contest. Last month we had an amazing art contest with beautiful entries from people all over Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So we're telling you now, get your entry in. Draw your favorite Truth, Justice, American Way art. Tag me at GayBeltabe on Instagram. Tune in Thursday, the 21st of April, 4 p.m. Pacific, and we're going to be giving out prizes of first, second, and third place. See you there. Kids' seats are just $8. I really would like to go to a monster truck rally someday. Goodness, I hope my microphone is on. It is Wednesday, April 13th. I'm your friend Gabe LT, and I'm here. My good friend, my brother from another mother, perhaps. We might actually look into that someday. Oh my goodness. Did my father ever spend time in Texas? I don't know. Here he is, the one and only Shantan Jetty.
It's good to see you, brother. How you doing?
Great, but I love the new headband.
It's a reversible version that's got the dark on one side, light on the other side. Miyagi-Do had to do it.
Depending on what mood you're in, huh?
Yeah, man. And it's funny too, because it's based off of a movie about, a young Italian kid, who's trying to fight his way, to win respect in a level that he feels like he's not at,
live or die, man. Live or die.
Live or die. And then we get to its parent.
Right.
It's basically like the Wolfman versus I was a teenage werewolf. Like it's that kind of thing, and you get to the iconic Rocky.
Right.
It's brilliant. Brilliant film.
How did it take us this long on Double Impact to get to Rocky? That's shocking to me.
It was meant to be this week.
I mean,
it's how it is sometimes,
It's on the Mount Rushmore of all-time greatest, first of all, badass fighter films, then inspirational films, and then sports films, which I'm generally not a fan of sports films.
Yeah.
Because one thing I can never reconcile in my head in sports films is like, why is the other team the bad guy? Like, aren't they just another team that wants to win too? But Rocky and a few other sports films I make a great exception for. I've seen every Rocky film, including the excellent Creed films, which I had zero faith in. I thought they'd be woke and stupid and modern, and they're excellent films.
Yeah.
And I like them all. Are you a fan of the entire Rocky oeuvre?
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's some that I love more than others,
Right.
but I mean, I love the movies, and I'm not just sold on them, just because they're boxing films. I think Stallone has a very deep understanding and love of the sweet science. So it's always great to see him talk about something he loves, and the sincerity he does it with. But if we're talking about the Rocky films, the original Rocky is an incredibly special film, on its own. I always say that to people, that when people talk about what's the best Star Wars movie, blah, 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 the Star Wars movie that is the most important is the first one from 1977, because there's nothing after it without it. It had to be what it was. Wherever you go from there, you need that first one. If the first Godfather film doesn't work, you don't get Godfather Part 2. It's that kind of thing. And for me, what's interesting to me about Rocky is that, first of all, it was the biggest pop culture phenomenon of the year I was born.
Oh, wow.
Which is 1976. Wow. And so you've got that on one end of the thing. And then the other aspect of it is a movie. People right now are reminiscing about the 1980s and reminiscing about how things were in the 80s. But what people don't realize, I think, sometimes, is how similar where we are now to where things were in the 70s.
Right.
And 1976 with Rocky is a movie that in a lot of ways everybody should watch right now, because it's a movie about where we are now and how we get to the following year, and things like Star Wars. How do we get to things where people needed Rocky at that moment? And it's a phenomenon is one part artist making a solid work, and the next part, the mind of the time and the people of the time and the culture of the time needing that movie to exist and not knowing it until they see it.
Right. Absolutely. Wow. Well said. It is about an artist making a solid work, because the mainstream woke artists, the only thing they're making solid right now is a bowel movement. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. And even then, it's the only moving thing about their work is the way it moves our bowels. But it's the thing about it is that if you look at this movie and you think about this kind of stuff,
right.
that we have all these expressions, right? Game recognizes game, real recognizes real, all this stuff. You can't fake realness and you can't fake sincerity. And when people are making a movie and they really know, they've lived a life and they know what it's about and they really think about it, and they're students of the world, they do things and they have interactions between characters that someone who's trying to engineer society doesn't have, because they've never had a real conversation. And in this movie, there are real conversations that characters have that are supposedly with other people, but are really with themselves. And to me, it's like you've got, I can't even, the whole movie is about a whole bunch of characters who basically have never risen to that level of being, the men that the society needs them to be.
Right.
And in this weird way, this movie was the movie that told society that we needed men, that we couldn't do anymore the floppy haired, bell bottom jeans, stuff, and that we needed guys. And by the way that Adrian is cast in this movie as this tiny kind of bookish looking, gal.
Right.
And then seeing her contextualized and standing next to Rocky, it just changes everything. You know what I mean? It's she's got this life where she is almost like a nun,
right. She's just a boring, quiet girl that works at the pet shop. And I love how Rocky starts off as like a street tough. The movie starts off, he's fighting for $5 or whatever, getting his brains bashed in. But he also works for that mafia boss guy. And it seems like he's a money collector for a gentleman who's in a not so legal business.
That's right.
And I remember they're making fun of him for dating Adrian. And the guy, the driver for the mafia boss, he tells Rocky, "You should take it to the zoo. I heard retards like the zoo." And then Rocky tries to kick his ass. Do you remember that? That's like, oh my God. But the craziest thing about that line, which is, offensive,
Yes.
is in the second Rocky, spoiler, he takes her to the zoo.
Yes.
And that's where he proposes to her.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing too, right? About it is it's like, legal. I like Angela Curry, legal business. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Loan collecting, as they say, or loan reminding.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing about it, right? Is that, there's this thing that it is, what's the word I'm looking for? There is this hiding of femininity that's going on with the way that her character is dressed with the glasses and the hat, that to me is not too unlike the phenomenon we see today.
Right.
And he could not be less of that type of guy that was, being, promoted out there of like what a guy is. And yet what this movie shows is layers of these guys who are not really being talked about much in movies. Everything was about failure and pointlessness. And, it's Chinatown, it's like, what are you going to do?
So
it's
forget
Chinatown.
it, Jake. Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
Yeah, exactly. And he's not forgetting it.
Yeah. Let me welcome in a lot of people coming in now. Paul's here. Daddy Nurgle's here. What a great name. Angela Curry's always here. TBG Animation. Show me some keyframe animation for a Truth, Justice, American Way piece. Who else is here? Citizen Ronan is here. Jeremy Burtz is always here. Luna's always here, our good friend Luna. Shant is here. And I'm here. Okay, but thank you all for coming in. Thank you all for commenting. But this is just a masterpiece of a film. So the premise of Rocky, for those of you who don't know, is you got this uneducated poor guy living in a hovel, Rocky, and he boxes, but he's never really made anything of himself doing it. He's working for, I don't know if it's the mafia, but it sure doesn't seem legal. And the champion, Apollo Creed, the champion, the guy he's going to fight in a big, is it a Christmas Day fight or is it it's a holiday? Is it 4th of July, Christmas? I think it's on 4th of July. I could be getting this wrong. It could be at the holidays, but it's 1976. It's the 200th anniversary of America. You're in Philadelphia, the original capital of America, and he wants to have a huge heavyweight fight, and he can't fight the original guy for whatever reason. The guy broke his arm or hand or ribs or something. I don't remember the detail. And so he looks through who are the local boxers, and he picks out the hometown kid, Rocky, Philadelphia kid. He says, I'll fight him and stuff. And they end up fighting, and no one thinks he can do it. And I won't spoil the end because if you haven't seen it, it's such a great movie. But that's the basic premise, right? I got all that, Sean?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you basically have got, and this is another thing. So what people who are were born that year, like myself, which I didn't even hear this till I was a little bit older, is I met somebody and they said, what year were you born? I think it was a doctor's office or something. I said 1976. And they said, oh, you're a bicentennial baby. Right. And so everybody born in 1976, that year is referred to as a bicentennial baby because that was a very big time, and a big event in our culture. And what's interesting to me about it is when you look at this and you think about where we were in the 70s and where, we are today, this idea of, this character, this sort of, man and all the people. Let me just throw this in here too, by the way. If you are a comics fan, and I suspect some of you may be,
at least a few.
At least a few. Then you probably know about the 1966, Batman, Adam West, 1960s Batman, Adam West Batman movies.
Right.
The actor who plays the Penguin, Burgess Meredith, is in this movie.
Right.
And he is, the people in that movie, people don't know, Cesar Romero, all these actors, they were cast because they were great, iconic actors that were going to carry that show. Burgess Meredith in this movie is an astounding acting job by him. He's incredible in this, and it's one of those films to where, again, all of these guys who are very much see themselves as missed opportunities of accomplishment. There you go. And you can see the penguin. Once you point it out, you can't unsee it.
Right.
It's like you can see that top hat and that cigarette, and it's like you look at this guy and he's talking. He spends a lot of this movie, where he's trying to pass on his wisdom. My avatar is a young Burgess Meredith. Oh my gosh, I'm just putting that together. Henry Bemis.
Oh,
you sly dog.
I didn't know that. Let me go look at that real quick.
That's brilliant. Yes. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Only in Comicsgate. Thing always comes full circle,
Oh,
and that's the thing about it for me, right? Is when I look at this kind of stuff, Rocky has these sequences in this story where he's kind of like he's frequently assessing his lot in life.
Yeah.
And let's read this. This is a great one.
TJ Carr, BDWA. I can read. What I love about the first movie is that it's really not about boxing. It's about an average Joe rising to the occasion to get your shot at doing your best in the moment. Yeah, I didn't watch Rocky until like 5 years ago. I'd never seen it because I don't like sports movies. Because again, in my head, I'm a sportsman. I played football forever. I coached it. And I never liked the concept in sports movies that one team is the bad guys and one team is the good guys. That never sat true in my head. Boy, was I wrong. This is one of the greatest. It's so stupid to say 40-something years later. One of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then all the other Rocky movies are also amazing. And when I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I thought people just liked it because they had cool fighting and people like Stallone because he's charismatic. But I never bothered because I don't like sports movies. I like real sports. And geez, was I wrong about this? And maybe I'm wrong about the other sports movies. Maybe I've got that backwards. But great comment there.
It's a tough thing to make too. Sports movies are always tough to make, particularly for fans of that sport. And you gotta
eat lightning and crap thunder. What a great quote, right?
You got and it's the thing that gets me about this flick is you got those moments where it's almost like you feel like Jordan Peterson needs to come in the room or something, where Rocky's looking at his life and he's like talking about, you see my apartment? It stinks. You see all of this? It stinks. Right. And he's always like walking two sides of the coin where it's almost like he's talking to himself, where he's saying, what, you don't like this? And it's evident that he doesn't like it, that he's written himself off as a bum. It's almost like a continuation of On the Waterfront. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody.
Right.
Oh, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's that's what you kind of have here. And when one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is the sequence where Burgess Meredith comes to talk to him in his place, and he's on the other side of the door, won't come out, and then Burgess Meredith leaves, and he basically shouts to himself. It's like a conversation with himself. They both have conversations to themselves, and you see him just kind of laying it all out, and then it's kind of like, all right, now let's go deal with this. And that's, I can't say it enough. It's like seeing this guy who is in every day in his life, he's playing the role of the bum. He's accepted it. That's his lot in life. Or actually, let's rephrase that. He has gone along with it, but he hasn't fully accepted it yet.
Right.
And now he's got this opportunity, and he sees himself in many ways kind of like as the joke. I'm going to get, the hell beat out of me. That's like, don't give me hope. I know why I'm here, so to speak.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things to me in life, and then what I want to make with the art that people like you and I make, is to never give up. And like sometimes the obstacle that is the way through. Like, how do I get around this? You don't. You put your head down and you go through it. That's why I love football. You don't run around that guy in front of you. You crush him and you break his will. You know what I mean? And you dispense a little justice. And I think in this movie, what Rocky and Mick, Burgess Meredith, are getting over, what they have to conquer is wanting to quit. You know what I mean? Mick quits on Rocky. I don't want to train you no more. Get out of my gym. Nothing like. And then Rocky, he's 98% there, just thinking he's just a loser that's gonna live. His apartment. I'm looking for interior shots of it. I can't find it. Mm-hmm. It's so bizarre. There's like a mattress wrapped around that corner of a wall. There's giant like Rambo knife stabbed into it. They never explain it. It's just a filthy, grimy hovel the size of a phone booth. It's terrible where he lives, and it's great for his character to show that he's hanging on the cliff by his fingernails. He has not given up on life, but he almost has. He almost has.
He has. So. Yeah, you're right. And I mean that too. With Old Dirty Fast, saying all the great lines. Cut me, Mick. It's like
right.
The idea of, I mean, I'm trying to like not, because it's like I'm so sick of the academic trying to interpret blah blah. But I know that Stallone is a smart guy. I know the director's a smart guy. It was a smart script. The whole aspect of cut me so I can see.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like I can tell. I want my eyes to be opened. Like that's some powerful stuff there, man. And it's the way that you were talking about the good guys versus the bad guys. This movie doesn't really do that.
Right.
It doesn't approach things that way. And you see that as the movies go on, all the way up to Creed, which is incredible when you think about it.
Yeah, they don't do that simplistic. Well, this soccer team's the bad soccer team, and we're the good soccer team. And it's just like, I think the opponent you're trying to overcome in Rocky, and I realize probably in most good sports films would be you're trying to overcome yourself. That's what sports are about. That's what achievement as men and women. I only know them from a male point of view, but that's to me what being a man is about, is overcoming me. Looking at Gabe in the mirror and saying, hey, man, that ain't good enough. That's nonsense. Stop doing that, or you got to do this. And I think that's the message of a movie like this. I wanted to quickly address a great comment that I had up there by Destructo. I love how Cuff and Link are still alive and living with Sliding A. Here you go. Here are Cuff and Link in the movie. He goes to the pet store where Adrian, his girlfriend, then later wife, works. And he gets these two little tortoises, I guess. Or I guess they'd be turtles. And to this day, I guess they're still alive. Many, many decades later, because those things that can live like 100 years or something like that. I know at the San Diego Zoo, the best zoo in the world famous San Diego Zoo, we have Galapagos turtles from the 1800s, and they're still there. I've visited them a few times, and these things are well over 100 and something years old. And you can go up and feed them a leaf and pet them and everything. The fence for the turtles at the zoo here is only like a 3-foot fence, or it's like a little rock wall. You can lean right over and rub them on the head and everything. But they live quite a long time. So in the movie, he's got his little turtles there named Cuff and Link. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much about this film that is, unique. When it goes forward, it's great, but this is the world building,
Absolutely. Oh, here's someone commenting on what I said. The rolled up mattresses are substitute for boxing bags. Of course.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie a few times. I'm like, why does he have a mattress on the corner of the wall here?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez.
I mean, go ahead.
No, and then I wanted this comment here. Is it Rocky 1 where he's hitting the beef so hard that he's breaking the ribs? That's this one, right?
Yep, that's in this one. Yeah, and I love that. And someone already answered this, but that was the part of it where I love that part, because we see this so often in boxing, where you see, Creed's guys, trainer going, I think it was going, hey, man, he's on TV right now. You got to take a look at this. It looks like he's pretty serious, and it just goes to show you, how, this is the crazy thing, right? It's this idea that it's about what the verdict is, win or lose, what the end statement is, and not about like what you change in yourself by pushing for excellence. I hear so many people now talking about fighting. Boxing basically did the same thing that comic books did, about 30 years ago, and made it hard to get to, made it a specialty thing, slowly made it, so expensive to go see the fights that it lost its audience. And right now it's starting to kind of make a comeback, because it's actually going out there to the people, interestingly enough, on YouTube, much like Comicsgate is. And, what was so interesting to me is you see how the champ can get so in his head and think that there's such a thing as an easy fight. And we see this with Tyson and Buster Douglas. You see this with Teofimo Lopez. And, it's like people just going in and thinking it's going to be a cakewalk. But there's a real threat, it's not like that. That's the thing I love about this. There's not a simplistic ending or a simplistic journey, and people talk about the training montage before. Yeah, there's a reason why, that people go to Philly to run up the stairs and throw their arms.
Right.
It's because that's where he starts to visualize it.
Right. When he's running through that street market and all the kids are chasing him, and then he ends up running to the top of the stairs at the museum in Philly. It's amazing. I want to go there and see it, but I've been told the bronze Rocky that stands up at the museum, I've been told it's at the bottom of the stairs. What are they thinking? The statue belongs at the top of the stairs. Why is it at the bottom?
No words. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the thing too, right? Is that the attitude before Star Wars in 1977 and all these things, the attitude, if you watch movies like Planet of the Apes, 2001, they're very much, postmodernist movies. They can be very interesting, but there's no answers. Everything's cynical. What's the future in Planet of the Apes? Spoiler alert. Apologies for everybody. We blew it all up. That's the gist of it.
You maniacs.
You maniacs. Rocky is not a cynical, nihilistic movie. No. It's saying to you, get off your ass and fight. It doesn't matter how things have been. Everything that's happened before now is not the thing that this is about right now. I mean, maybe it is in some ways. You know boxing, you've been training, but you don't have to have the attitude that you are acting off of. Does not have to be what drives you your entire life. Right. Get your house in order, and that is what he does. Right. He gets his house in order. And all these characters, as a result, around him have to raise their game and start to believe in it. And that moment is where I think the country and I think everybody watching the movie and the character, it all lined up for us to believe it. Believe that it was worth trying instead of just going, what's the point? The Tao of what's the point? What's the point? Why bother?
It's beautiful. It's the human spirit. And I wasn't there, but, I've taken a history class or two. And the late 70s, I was born in 78, but I wasn't there in a way that I could remember it. Mm-hmm. And it was America was knocked on its ass. Mm-hmm. The economy was some of the worst ever. And you have the Iranian hostage crisis, and Carter was not an effective president. And America had just lost trust with Nixon leaving office recently before that. And America was a mess. It's post-World War II. The baby boomers were, college age-ish or a little bit older. And what are we? What is our country? What are we going to be? And America was on its ass with a bloody nose. And had to get back up, on that 200th anniversary. We had to start getting back up. And I think you're right. This movie and probably other things like it, we're hope. We're like, we can be something. We can be great. Again, no pun intended, but
we had skyrocketing gas prices, right? And hyperinflation.
Right.
And we had this whole idea of, and we elected, we chose following, years of this kind of hatred of all of the same ideologies that people have come to think were the problem. We put in a president that we thought was not threatening, was the idea. Like if we put somebody who's affable and not strong and is ineffectual, we'll be safe, which is probably the most idiotic thing you could possibly do. Yeah. And what we sort of realized is that the world isn't this simplistic, Bee Gees universe that, we think it is. Like the soundtrack to life isn't the Bee Gees. The soundtrack to life in that moment was, and this is a big moment for the rise of the film score, was da 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 da, like, and right. And people needed that. And whatever your job is, whatever is going on, it makes you feel a passion for, let me go out there and try. And you see him when you see Stallone working in this, and not to mention, it's not like, think of Stallone next to almost every other, just look right there. I mean, this is a young actor in his physical prime in this. And
he's doing the one-handed push-ups. Mm-hmm. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's also, gonna fly now. That's right. Gonna fly now.
Yeah, and we need this sort of vulnerability again from artists, writers, comic book artists, filmmakers, musicians. We need real. We need enough with the fake and the politically incorrect and just the cowardice, the punk-ass cowardice of so many artists everywhere. How dare you call yourself an artist? How dare you call yourself an artist and you're not true? You're not true to what you really think. You don't have to be right. You don't have to win. You have to try. That's the whole point of never giving up and humanity, the human spirit. You don't have to win. And I'll just spoil it anyway. Jeez, it's a 45-year-old movie. He doesn't win. He doesn't beat Apollo Creed. That's like the whole point, but he goes the distance. And
he puts him down for the first time.
Right. He knocks him down, and the champ's never been knocked down. Apollo Creed still wins the boxing match, but Rocky goes, what is it, 12 or 15? I don't remember. But
15.
He goes 15 rounds with the champ.
Yeah. You know? And I loved like a lot of angles in this too, you know. The fact that, you know, Rocky is, you know, this southpaw fighter, the fact that, you know, they're celebrating, and this is the other thing too, they're celebrating the bicentennial. There's all this different stuff going on, but it's about, I mean, gosh, look at that. Such a great promo. Right. It's brilliant. You know, but you see these guys like, and he's a smaller dude, and I can't overstate that. When I look at this and I look at the way that the fighting, you know, in this movie is and where things are, I'm one of those people, I've seen people mention it in the chat. I understand Taxi Driver. I understand how the movies work. I understand what they're about. I understand they're effective. I understand movies like The Joker. The question that I've had since this stuff, you know, took over comics, you know, in the 80s was the same question that Denny O'Neil had, I know, which is, where do you go with this? You know what I mean? Right. Like, where do you go when people identify more with the Joker, which they have for a long time now, than they do with Batman, than the hero? And where do you go when all of your characters, when people start to identify with people who give up, people who've quit, and they say, well, look, this person's had a tough time. Rocky's had a tough time too. Adrian's had a tough time too, with no real thought that they could ever get out of said tough time. But they make a different choice. They take the opportunities. When the opportunity presents themselves, they seize it. They move. That's basically the American dream in a nutshell.
Right.
You know, is to seize what opportunities you have, not what opportunities you think you should have, but what's in front of you. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this, guys.
Yeah, I do think that. I think that you do seize those opportunities. You do have it. And again, I'll reiterate, it isn't about winning. None of this is about winning. It's about trying. Yeah. And it's a meme now, and people are making fun of it. It must have been in some TV show or some movie. But I privately said it years ago and would tell it to my wife and kids that when it came to making it as an artist, I told the universe, if you want to stop me, you're going to have to kill me, because I'm not going to stop. On this end, I'm not stopping.
Yes, absolutely.
Can I be killed or whatever, or something outside my control? Of course. But I will not choose to stop. And that is truly the only failure in life, is choosing to stop. And that is always a choice. You can always choose to keep going. Even if it's terrible and the odds are, 99-1, you can still go.
Yeah.
You can still go. And this movie is so amazing for letting you feel it, like in a catharsis. You know what I mean? And it's so inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and if you think about it too, and this is the thing that is really kind of interesting to me, is there's the attitude and there's the mentality of life, which is about living it and going forward. The mentality of nihilism is something that if you're going to try to live with it, all you're doing is prolonging the end, which is your destruction or the destruction of other things. It's all it can be about, is destroying. And sooner or later, you run out of things to destroy, or that you take satisfaction from destroying, and then it's you. And what movies like Rocky say, I mean, you look at where we were in the 1970s, there's, an optimist and a creator in someone who's worked their way up in a sea full of negative people can be a very powerful thing.
Right.
And there are people, listen, we've talked about this. Whatever you're fighting, and people are fighting a lot of stuff sometimes going on in their lives. They are. Yeah. This movie, you didn't have to be a boxer to appreciate this movie. No. That's why it was great. It was bigger than that.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And just think all the people you know and people you don't know, the people you see here in the chat, some of the things they might be going through,
Yes.
Everybody gets it somehow. Everybody gets it right between the eyes from something in life.
Yeah.
And we got to lift each other up, you know what I mean? And we got to inspire. And I thank guys like Stallone for making art like this. Yeah. Art is such amazing persuasion, working on your, your cortex. Obviously, you're cognitively, you think about art, but in that hindbrain, the amygdala, the animal brain,
Yeah.
you feel it. And your feelings are undeniable. They may not be true, but you believe them anyway. And when
Yeah.
you're told that Rocky can fight this man that's a world champion, bigger, stronger, faster, and not give up, still lose the fight, but he didn't lose because what the goal he was after is to not give up and go the distance, and he accomplished that.
Yeah,
You know
it
what I mean?
is.
So, and I would
And
tell,
what does
go ahead.
Adrian say to him, right? Why do you fight?
Right.
That's a question that I think a lot of people have. Why do you fight?
Well,
Like some
to
of my
me-
favorite stories about, as someone who's a fight fan and someone who's a boxing fan, there's so many people who stick around and lift people up when they're winning. They don't understand the fight game. And then once they lose and they're not a symbol for them,
Right.
you know, then they're like, they're gone. They're trash. They're nothing. They're whatever. And some people believe the hype, but very few people know what it is to get into the ring, let alone, I'm shocked at how many people have never been in fights before. But
Yeah.
even outside of that, though,
Yeah.
you know, getting in the ring, these people you have to be so skilled to be able to, like, you see it all the time, like guy off the street challenges boxing coach in his gym and they just get demolished. Like it's like
Yeah.
this, you can take an old coach, someone who boxed and who's in their 60s, and they can take down a 30-year-old who doesn't know what they're doing. You know?
Well, I think you're totally right. Look at this amazing comment by Luna here. I think this is why you shouldn't give up, even though you know you're going to lose. You will send more ripples towards over or even the thing you're fighting to show hope is more possible than believed. The end of the sentence is probably a typo, but you get what he's saying. If you're standing there and the wave comes down and crashes you, but you fight to the bitter end, other people are watching. And you may not save your own life, but you could save another. You know what I mean? That energy, that love, that positivity you put out there by getting destroyed and losing, but never quitting, someone else will see that and maybe they'll win. Maybe they'll save a life. So, yeah, I think it's a great comment there. What do you think of this? This is sort of a question comment. What do you think of this, Shunt? The nihilism of the 70s was a baby boomer reaction to the optimism of their parents. I could see that. I don't know why they reacted that way to the greatest generation. What do you think? Do you have any clues there? I wonder that.
I have a supposition I've had for a very long time about it because I spent a lot of time thinking about it. They had a life, of terror and very difficult things,
right?
Of the Depression, of World War II, and they came back and they saw death on a scale that most of us can't fathom. So of course they came back and they wanted to make life. They came back changed because they were no longer living in that bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And they came back and they really wanted to give their children and create a society that was safe so their kids wouldn't have to go through the pain that they went through. They wanted to protect them from it. But just like with everything, the more protected they got, just look at the generation that you've got. We're going to eliminate bullying for you. You've got one of the most bullying generations in history.
Right.
Coming out of that bully and stalk and harass people.
Right.
And all of that stuff, because the simple fact of the matter is that if you don't experience, it's one thing to want to protect your kids from horror, but it's another thing to want to protect your kids from adversity. It's the ultimate denial of their agency and their strength to teach someone they can't handle adversity. And Rocky is the kind of person that I think a lot of pampered folks take a kind of secret pleasure back in the 70s that they can't succeed because you have to have everything perfect around you in order to be a success, which is the opposite of what reality shows us.
Right.
You look at any success story, it is not like this person was put in a situation where everything was perfect their whole life and then they were a genius.
Right.
That's not the typical story at all.
No, most like people are always say, oh, daddy's money. Most millionaires are entrepreneurs and we're not born into money. I mean, that right there, the majority were not born into money. You know what I mean? I got free lunches in high school, and my mother was a single mother most of the time growing up. And, you know, I'm doing very well now. And that's God's blessing on me. I won't take credit myself, but you can fight. You don't have to roll over and give up. There's some great comments here, Sean. Let me jump on some of these. First of all, why does Rocky fight? Because I can't dance or sing. I can dance and sing, but I'm not going to do it. The movie was about being an underdog. Rocky was an underdog, so was Adrian. I love this. Rocky was an underdog, so was Adrian, so was Paulie, so was Mick, and they rallied around Rocky as their champion. I love that. I never thought of it. They were all underdogs.
Yeah.
Adrian was the shut-in spinster. Her brother felt like he had wasted his life taking care of her. and then Mick was the old has-been and never was or whatever. And
Mhm.
together they all did something great. I never thought about how they're all underdogs. That's amazing. And,
Yeah,
and it's something we go back to the Spartans,
mhm.
and we go back to David and Goliath. And the underdog story is one we can all relate to. There's no way a farmer boy, King David of Israel, but he was a boy at the time,
Yeah.
bringing lunch to his brothers on the battlefield against the Philistines. And he takes up the sword against Goliath, who's,
Yep.
I don't know, 8 feet tall, 6 fingers, 6 toes, and he bests him with God's help. But the underdog story is so powerful to human beings because it's a metaphor for how we feel in life when there's disease that strikes people, or financial ruin, or a divorce, or they fail out of college, or someone goes to prison, or just these horrible things. That's who Apollo Creed, that's who Dolph Lundgren, that's who Goliath. That's what that is in our minds. This
Yeah.
big evil dragon. How will you slay it? And it isn't about slaying it. It's about standing up to it and never giving in.
Yeah, and it's about it's about, it's about the principle of the thing, because the simple fact of the matter is that, had he not trained, had he not, prepared himself, yeah, exactly. That's a really good point there too. Is that, but if he had not trained, if he had not prepared himself, and if he had gotten knocked out, right, he would have gotten the same money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
He would have gotten the same pay.
that's true. That's true.
He might not have gotten another shot. He might not have impressed people, but he would have gotten the same money. But he's fighting to show people, and for this idea to show himself more than anybody else, that he's a better man and that he is more than he thinks of himself. And in order for him to accomplish that, everybody around him has to get on the same page with themselves. That, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not that, like, everybody has that moment in this story where they confront their narrative they have for themselves, the myth of their existence, of what a failure I am, and blah blah. And occasionally, they share with the other person, because you had talent and you wasted it. You know what I mean? And it's
Right.
like there's those moments where somebody says to you, it's like that great quote that I love, so what, now what?
Right.
After people say to you, this is it, this is our situation, blah, 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 you have to look at these tough situations and say, so what, now what?
Right. Right. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You give yourself a second to gather yourself and say, okay, now what?
Yeah.
But absolutely. Barb Rogers, Little Miss Sunburn for $5 Canadian, I think. Super sticker. I went and checked on YouTube. It's a little dancing fox. I think in Japanese that's a kitsune, I believe. I don't know. Thank you. Very generous. Yeah, let me check some more of these great comments. Great commentary, friend. This is one of your favorite movies. I'm sure you know this one backwards and forwards. It's a new favorite for me. It's a top fiver for me. I don't know where it is, but what a spectacular movie, because the message is congruent with everything I believe about life. Rocky's clashing the typical action movie on this show. Absolutely. Oh yeah. Yeah. We're well aware.
Yes.
That Steven Seagal is the flaming hot Cheetos of movies.
That's right. That's right.
They're
which
good,
is to say, great.
Cheetos are good. Doritos are good, but there's literally zero reason to ever eat one.
Exactly.
Other than the fun it gives you. So
yeah.
I get it.
Well, and this is the thing too. I love boxing, and I love the sweet science. And the reason why I watch boxing is, and I'll watch any fight that's on. Like, I'm that kind of boxing fan. I'll watch any fight that's on. And I see fights that are bad. I see fights that are good, but it has nothing to do with what's at stake, whether it's a belt, whether it's two champions. If you get two people who are evenly matched and you watch what happens. Hey, Literature Devil, good to see you. You watch what happens when a fighter, they go into the ring and they're thinking, that sickening feeling, right, of what if this person is willing to lay it all on the line as much as I am? What if I hit them with my best shots and they don't go down, or they go down and they come back? And then what if the other person hits you with their best shots, you go down and you come back? And there's that 15 round back in the day, my God. But there's this, you can see it in round 12 today, where you see two fighters at the end of a fight like that, of a real contest, and they embrace. And
Yeah.
until you understand that, until you understand why they do that, it's a appreciation for and a respect for the sport and the shared experience they have of bringing everything the other person had out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing about it, right? Is that we were so the 60s, the 70s, and all of that stuff. We had a generation that fought in a war. We had another generation who was trying to be educated as to why wars are a terrible thing, which we all agree with, but how they can be prevented, how you can never deal with conflict. And what happened is they took that conflict and they made that conflict happen at home. And this was a story about how combat can bring out the best in you, how actually engaging in combat and pushing your body to its physical limit and not, essentially just being, a meat vehicle, at rest,
Right.
idling at a stoplight, but how you can actually push yourself beyond where you thought you could go.
Right.
And guys, I know you guys know this, right? But it's when I think it was, I can't remember what day it is because comic skate days blend together for
It's
creative.
Wednesday, friend.
But I had a day 2 days ago. I drew or painted, I should say, at my desk for 16 hours.
Oh my
Got
God.
up to eat something and just went, which is not unusual for us, right? We have those days where we do that.
Yeah.
And you learn what you're made of. Like when you're 16 hours of focus and doing things, you get tired, your eyes bother you, but you keep going. And I watch fighters and boxing and movies like this, because movies like this are like, you think you have it hard. No one's trying to take your head off.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's
Right.
actually the job. It's and the same thing goes with MMA, that momentary lapse of judgment. It's like that can be the difference for you. And so if we don't respect people who push themselves to the physical limit to achieve things, if we try to dumb down what they're doing or act like it's not important or acting like, the rights and freedoms we have, which is what we were celebrating in the bicentennial, don't mean anything. If we take away from a woman like Adrian the richness and the wonder that masculinity can bring to her life, not living with somebody who is her brother, somebody who is just a guy that she's with, you know what I mean? And they're making this fake sort of, relationship, so to speak, of it's like husband and wife, but not husband and wife. This guy comes in and says, "You're a woman. Let me take your glasses off. Let me take your hat off. Like you're hiding in a costume." And that's the thing that just kind of kills me, is the way that people, I see so much entertainment where people, are being reminded or seeking entertainment where they're reminded, wait a second, I'm a man. Wait a second, I'm a woman. Under this hat, under these glasses, under all this other stuff, this is a man who sees me as a woman. And what do I do with that feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never known it. I'm so out of practice. And he is so out of practice being a winner. And they both are. They're out of practice being a winner. And in his moment that he's worked so hard, we see the whole movie, that's her winning the belt. Right. What does he want at that moment? What makes the top of the mountain of this movie worth it? Having her standing by his side. That's it.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And I do think it's amazing how you're right. They're out of practice being a woman, out of practice being a man, out of practice being winners, out of practice just being in the state they were made to be in. And I think, again, with postmodernism, we have a lot of confusion about all that. We can't even define, what a person is or anything, and all this crazy stuff. And it's just like, no, our traditions and our heritage and all of it matters so much, because it was bled for and it was died for to give us what we have, and to turn our backs on it and to act like it doesn't matter. That nihilism of the 70s, I agree with you. I think we are right there again. We are in the late 70s again.
We are.
And maybe those 1980 awesome, teased up hair with Aquanet hairspray and neon lights and everyone at the mall and that whole thing. Why do you think there's such a strong thing for that in like Stranger Things and all the media? Everyone's embracing the 80s right now because it was a hopeful, amazing time. It was so hopeful.
Yeah, I think everybody's embracing the aesthetics of the 80s right now, but they're embracing the mentality of the 70s.
Right.
When we truly embrace what was the actual core of the 80s, it will look different than the 80s, because the 70s was just fashion. Right. It was fashion over nihilism.
Right.
So it was, we know better, you know, our parents fought in World War II and overcame the Great Depression, but what do they know about anything? Was the mentality of the 60s and the 70s, so to speak. So you had all this great culture that came out of people who had some connection with it. And as that connection faded, you know, you got the me generation and you got all of that kind of stuff. And the problem with it is it's a deprivation of spirit, right? You know, C.S. Lewis said that in the absence of food, the spirit will eat poison. And that is what nihilistic entertainment is.
Right.
It's poison. So you think, well, man, this poison makes me feel bad, but I'm hungry, so I guess I'll double up on the poison. Maybe I'll feel full eventually. And if you offer people food, they will respond, you know? And it's and this is the other thing too. And Paul, I totally get what you're saying here, but I will tell you this. There are absolutely women out there and feminine women out there to boot. And the thing is that we can extol the virtues of femininity. Absolutely. That's one of the things I'm doing in my book. And the thing is it can be done, but no one's going to. Well, there's this great quote I was reading today from Ayn Rand that I liked, which is, the question is not who is going to give me permission. The question is who is going to stop me.
Hell yeah.
And that's it.
Hell yeah.
Who is going to stop us?
Right.
Now, if you guys have our backs.
You know who can stop you?
Yeah.
The only person that can stop you is you.
Yeah.
Because they can imprison you. They can take everything away from you. They can kill you. They can jail you. They can whatever. But you didn't choose it. So you still say, fuck you. I didn't quit. You know what I mean? I still win because you didn't get me here. You didn't get me to bend in here. So whatever. You know, let me show this one. I'll let you go. I love this one here. TBG animation. He or she was bullied in high school by a fat dude for a while. Then one day I had enough of him. So in a state of rage, I said to myself, what the hell? I conquered my fear and I laid the smack down on him. Good.
Yeah. I had
not encouraging violence, YouTube. No violence.
Yeah. I'll tell you guys a story from my youth that is so tied to where I am. Yeah. It's and hail Paul. Absolutely. So tied to where I am. So when I was going to school, went to an all-boys school in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Got into some young kid. Got into some kid who was younger than me. Came up and got into some scuffle with me. I think he a bunch of guys pushed me to the ground. He took it too far and he came over and he kicked me or something just to join in. So I got up, went over to the kid, had a friendly headlock conversation with him, and this bigger kid came over to me and picked me up and threw me to the ground off of him. Now, this guy just kicked me in the head. I was having a friendly conversation with him. I'm sure I had him in a headlock, but this other guy getting involved, this guy was big. All right. He outweighed me by a lot. He was a larger gentleman, and he was at least a head taller than me. I was a tiny kid. I must have weighed 110, 112 pounds. Seriously, I was a tiny kid. I probably weighed 98 pounds soaking wet with a brick on my head. And this kid came up to me, and he throws me to the ground, and he's like, come on, what are you going to do? Now, something about how fights work, I'm sure you guys are aware of this, is everybody circles around you to wait and see what happens, right? And then there's a whole group of people you never met in your life screaming, go on, man, we'll back you up, who will not back you up as this person pounds you into the ground. I still remember it like it was yesterday. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this guy. And I'm like,
for story time. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm looking at this guy and I'm going, I'm gonna get my ass kicked when I go home. Anyway. So it's what's another ass kicking? And I go, do I really need another one? So I turn around at the student center and I go to turn around, and everybody in the student center goes, oh, God, like this boo thing. And I just stopped, turned around, walked right back up to him. Dead silence. The whole place went quiet. And I sat there and looked at him, and I hawked the biggest loogie I could muster into his face.
Ooh.
In front of everybody. And the whole room erupted. And I walked out of there, and the guy was frozen.
Wow.
Frozen. And I was scared shitless because I've been punched in the back of the head before. As I walked out of there, I was like, it wasn't some Will Smith stuff. I was looking him in the eye before I did it. Didn't have my head down. I walked right up to this kid, looked him in the eye, and I basically said, my mind was, you're going to kick the shit out of me in a second. That's all I really believe. Like, that's going to happen. I was like, but before you do, I want you to know you didn't beat me.
Right.
I bought a ticket to my ass kicking. I came up here, I slid you the money, and I paid you to kick my ass. You're not in control here.
I love that.
And to this day, it cracks me up, man. It was absolutely... That's
hilarious.
It's hilarious to me. And by the way, if he's out there, your initials are TA. I'm sorry, man. If you ever were there, I wish you peace and love. And it's a stupid time for kids. But anyway, but this is the thing. When I saw films like Rocky, especially even when I saw movies like our other hero, Jean-Claude Van Damme, where he was getting his ass kicked, and he was like, no, I've got to do this on principle. Principle is a very important thing. And you have to be willing to stand up for yourself, but it's not because you're going to win anything. I knew full well if this guy beat the living crap out of me, I was going to go home feeling physically very bad and worse, as Rocky says, the next day. But it was
he said like his teeth hurt or whatever.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
No, he said his eyelashes hurt or something like that.
Yeah, I've had it's like there's a ringing in your face when you get your ass kicked. It's like especially when it's with a group of people, but it is what it is. You know, it's like you know, a group of people beat you up and you just are like, you know, you have those moments. I remember a time when I had a bunch of guys who were beating me to the ground when I was a kid, and I had my hands up. This is how dumb you get when you're getting pummeled. I had my hands up blocking my face as this guy was trying to kick me in the face. And, you know, your hands are still hitting your face. And I think it was about like the fifth time a foot to hand to face, you know, hit me. I went, if I'm not, I got to stop this, because if he keeps kicking my hands, I'm not going to be able to draw tomorrow. Dropped my hands, took one in the face, go, oh yeah, that's why I was doing that. Because I forgot. It was like, you get into those situations. But here's the thing. When you look at a movie, like Rocky, and you look at this kind of stuff, and this is what I want to say to everybody, guys.
Hold on. Someone said this about your
Oh shit, yeah. I did. I went over there and I was like, I demand satisfaction, you know, my little tiny self. But this is the thing too, right? Is that for everybody in CG and everybody who's back in these books, guys, look, and Nosferatu had a big night last night. The Last of the Head sketches sold, got a bunch of new backers. Right. We just keep doing this stuff. We just keep grinding. We're not about the destination. The same thing is true with Truth, Justice, American Way.
Right.
But the thing I want everybody to think about this is that, you know, wherever you are right now, when you guys put everything you can into the work you're doing, into, you know, the whatever you're doing all day, and you say to us, the time I spend doing my work, I want to trade for the time you're spending doing your work, so that I can have some recreation, so that I can have some joy. That is going the distance. That is doing what Rocky does in this movie.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Beautifully said. What a great movie. I think Stallone is such an inspiration, and he's still around. He's in his 70s, and his brother and him, you can follow them both on Instagram. They have pretty interesting accounts there. His brother's a fascinating guy too. A good musician, guitar player, and singer, and all that. And his brother makes a cameo in most of these movies as like singing on the street corner with his like doo-wop band or whatever. In front of a burning a barrel with a big fire in there. I've never seen that in real life, but I've seen it in movies and Street Fighter video games or something.
That's right.
So there was something I wanted to play for everyone here that was important to me. It was a video I made today, and it's about our heritage and stuff, and I think it put things really well. So let me find that really quick. Give me 1 second here. I have to remove that. I have to remove some of the videos from the online studio here, because I think if I have too many, I'll choke the computer here. But I'm gonna play. It's about 4 minutes, and I just want to play. It's self-explanatory, but you'll see, and it's tangentially related to what we're talking about here. It's about our heritage and preserving things and stuff, and why it's important. But it was a little interview I had with a relative of mine. But I wanted to play something. I'm gonna post it to you later when I edit it some more. So hold on here.
American citizen.
Hold on. Let me back this up. Okay. I'll play this. Here we go. Sorry. And here we go.
Well, I'm an American citizen, and I love Americans, And anybody that don't like America, I don't even want to see them or talk to them. That's the way I feel.
This is Grandpa Rocky, is what we call him. I'm not blood related to him, but I might as well be. I've known him for decades now, and he's my brother-in-law's wife's grandfather. He's a great man, Navy veteran. San Diego's a big Navy town, as you know, and we love those people here. There's a banner of him right there. Escondido's a city in North County, San Diego, and, you know, they put him up there when they honor the some of the old veterans and stuff like that. He's a great man, and he knows what I've done, you know, ditching the woke Hollywood stuff, and he's proud of me for it. And I just wanted for posterity to record this, and I want my colleagues in the mainstream who further this horrible, insulting agenda of what they do over at Marvel and DC. I want you to look at him and just think about what he's saying here, and think about what he's done, and realize that the abundance you have comes from him and everyone that came before you, and not just military. Everyone, doctors, plumbers, musicians, other comic book artists, everyone that came before you, they laid the groundwork for you. And you need to start showing respect. So here's a little bit from the amazing Arthur Marciano. We love him. He's a legend. And yeah, just listen to this man. It's wisdom and it's fun. Hi, so I'm here with Grandpa Rocky. This is Gabe El-Taib. And Grandpa Rocky, you served in the Navy for many years. What was your your rank, and what ship did you serve on?
Oh, the chief aviation mechanic. I served on the Boxer for 3 years. I was on the Shangri-La, I was on the Essex, and the Midway. And I made 4 or 5 cruises overseas to Japan and China and all over to Asia.
Wow.
That's about all I can tell you right now.
Okay.
My nickname is Rocky.
Right.
Because I used to get beat up all the time as a kid.
So, kind of like a reverse Rocky Marciano. Yeah. No, you're Rocky Marciano the early years.
Yeah,
you know?
They named me Rocky after Rocky Marciano.
Right, the prequel to Rocky.
But I never boxed. I used to street fight, kick, bite, and scratch.
Right. Yeah, because you're from New York, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you were, you were in those street gangs like in what, the 30s or the 40s,
we used to
right?
make zip guns in school, high school.
Uh-huh.
And it's the little 22s we should shoot at each other.
All right.
And never hit anything but the trash cans. And that's about all I can tell you, Gabe. I don't know if I could tell you more. I'd love to tell you.
Okay, but I told you about some friends of mine, and we quit working for these big companies, Disney and Warner Brothers, because they're just communist trash. And, the American way, like Superman's slogan, they threw that in the trash, and they said they don't want Superman. He renounced his American citizenship in the books.
Well, I'm an American citizen, and I love Americans, and anybody that don't like America, I don't even want to see them or talk to them. That's the way I feel.
Right.
Okay.
How do you feel? Do you feel disrespected by these institutions doing that?
Absolutely. It's a shame. They want to be in America, but they don't respect anybody.
It's disgusting to me.
It is disgusting. I agree with you.
Right. So everything you did and other veterans to make America great, to give us the greatest abundance in the history of the world, in my opinion, and I think that's self-evident. I think you're right. For them to disrespect it is just so disgusting.
It is disgusting. I don't think they should be around.
I don't think they'll be around much longer, defying the fans and insulting this country over and over and over.
Well, as long as you got a president like we have now, it might be really sad. This guy doesn't know where he's at.
No, he doesn't.
I hate to disrespect the president, but he's a dud.
So, do you think, my friends and I, we broke away from easy, steady jobs at these big companies to make independent work that will once again, glorify America and uplift people, inspire them with real heroes.
I love it. I think that's what everybody should be doing instead of disrespecting the country and the flag. I hate people like that. And I don't care who knows it.
Well, thank you for everything you've done for us, and I hope I can make you proud with what I do.
Oh, I love what you do, Gabe. I love it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll end it here.
You're an American, true American. That's what I feel about it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rocky. That means a lot to me.
You're welcome.
All right. So I wanted to share that just because he's another Rocky, and his last name is actually Marciano. He's from New York, and he's got an amazing life story. That was this afternoon. I went to visit him. But he's a scrapper. He's a fighter. He didn't come from much. He turned 17 and joined the Navy like 3 days later and stuff like that, and served our country for many years. And he's a good guy, you know what I mean? And he really prospered and he made the most of himself. And he's old now. And it really shook me up this fall. He and I, and then some other guys, my father-in-law and some other dudes, they're Navy vets. And we watched my favorite football game. I love football. You guys all know that. And my favorite game of the year is the Army-Navy game. I always watch that game. There's so much tradition. The president is there and he flips the coin. Strangely, Biden didn't go this year, you know. But when Trump would go, they would really cheer for him, all the cadets and all the people like that. And I don't know. We watched that Army-Navy game with him, and he's Navy, and the other guys I was just, and Navy won in the last 5 minutes. It was an amazing game, like a movie, like a Rocky movie. And they were all hooping and hollering, and I could see in their eyes they felt young and powerful again, these old men. And he was so thrilled. He's a widower, Grandpa Rocky. He lives alone. He's got a nice house, but he's alone. And he was like, guys, that was so great. Let's watch the Super Bowl together. And he got COVID, and he almost died, and we didn't get to watch the Super Bowl together. And I can't stop thinking about stuff like that, like, you're going to see everyone you know for the last time, and you don't know, most of them you don't know it's the last time you'll see them. You know what I mean? And he's in a nursing home now rehabbing, but he's going to go home, God willing, soon. But I think about that a lot. I think about like fighting and not giving up. I think about like doing the right thing, and just that whole thing about you're going to see someone the last time and never see them again. And you're not aware of most of them, I guess. And I do think we have to fight, and that's another fight. Like Rocky had to fight Apollo. It's another fight, and it's always ourselves we have to fight. We have to fight like, I don't need to waste time. I don't need to waste precious time I have with people. The precious time I could have doing good, that I could be loving people, that I could be inspiring people. So I don't know. I just want to share that with you guys because he's a rock solid dude, and he is a reason I chose to do what I'm doing for DC Comics. And my actual father, and then my father-in-law, my grandfather, and everyone like that. I just feel such a debt of gratitude to them that I don't see how I had to stand up to my Apollo Creed. My bully that I had to beat up was me, being afraid to leave DC Comics and the steady check. They loved me. I could have just stayed there forever. Hollywood loves Mexican Arabs like me, right? As long as I don't say my politics, they love a guy like me. And I had to stand up to that. I had to stand up to being a chicken and not saying the right thing. So I don't know. I think this movie is fantastic, and I'm proud to stick up for guys like Rocky because, you know, he stood up for me before I was even born. So
yeah, I mean, I think that, I can't say it any better than that, you know. But I will, you know, the thing you were just saying about how, you know, every time you see people, you never know when's the last time you're going to see them, and you also never know, even if you just go your separate ways, you know, that it's that's the last time somebody's going to see you when you go your separate ways in life. And to me, the thing I always think about is, and I don't mean about in terms of you can't control, and it's the great fault of people who've gone down this very mentally ill road of having to control what other people think about them. You can control how they see you and how you act when they see you. You know what I mean? And I thought to myself, you know, when you see this movie, and he's talking about going the distance,
right?
If Rocky died in that ring, which happens in boxing,
Sure.
it's if he had died in that ring, he would have gone down with this belief. It would have been with honor, and that's the whole thing about it. You know, when how we act and how we behave, we often try to completely separate from who we are. Now, that's not to say, again, I know people want to police people and say, oh, I found this tweet from 20 years ago, or I found this moment that's not what we're talking about. If this is stuff that happens over time,
right?
You know, and when you see Rocky, one of the things that's interesting about this is, in this movie, is that Rocky really finds his own personal voice and is able to raise it. He is very soft-spoken and mumbly. He says he's an extrovert, and he goes around glad-handing people, but he actually says nothing about what he's going through and who he is.
It's all sizzle, no steak.
Exactly right. It's all sizzle, no steak. And
I heard a great Southern one. It was all hat, no cattle.
That's the one. Yeah, oh God, I use that one all the time. There's another one, but we won't use that one. But it's one of those things. It's one of those things to where when I see this stuff and I think about this, which is, you know, if you can only fill yourself up with, you know, with what you don't believe in. Like if I want to know, I said this to my students one of the last semesters I taught, I said to them, guys, this is the big decision that you guys need to answer. All things are horrible and impossible until you answer this for yourself. And nobody needs to answer this for you. No one can answer this for you, which is in this thing called life, with all its suffering, with all its challenges, with all its loss, with all its beginnings, with all its endings, with all of its beauty, with all of its ugliness, you don't get to pick and choose. Are you all in or are you out? You have to be all in or you have to get out and make that decision. Are you all in on trying? Are you all in on working hard? Are you going to let the external things dictate your discipline and your focus and your passion? Are you going to say, well, I would be passionate. I would try to draw today. I would try to turn my life around. But you know what? Circumstances are conspiring against me. Or are you going to say to yourself, the circumstances, so what? Now what? These are my circumstances. If I know them and they are known quantities, that dictates I should know better than anybody how to persevere and how to say I'm in. Now I'm doing it. This is my life. I've taken a look at my surroundings. I'm in. And that's what Rocky did. He looked around himself, found his resources, starting with himself, and saw all the things that he said no to that he needed to try saying yes to, all the things he'd never done before that he needed to do, all the things he's done before that he needed to stop doing.
Right.
And that's how he turned his life around. Nobody came in and fairy godmother and gave him, work ethic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, look at this little tagline. I just noticed it right there.
Yeah.
His whole life was 1,000,000 to 1 shot. What
That's right.
What are the odds? 1,000,000 to 1. He's not going to succeed, but he's not going to quit. And he says, I mean, in boxing, martial arts, any combat sport, you can be killed. You can be killed easily if you don't do things right. And he says to the universe, like I told you guys about when I was young and wanted to make it to DC Comics, I said, if you want to stop me, you're going to have to kill me because I'm not going to stop. And I want all of you to understand that you have that in you. All you need to do that is just decide that that's who you are. And the moment you decide it and then act on it, then that's who you are. It's very simple. It's a very simple thing to do. It's just hard emotionally,
What is 1,000,000 to 1? 1,000,000 to 1 is probability, but it is not possibility. And 1,000,000 to 1 shot is still a possibility. And that's something that we should always remember. Rocky is a movie about not shrinking in the face of, not leaving and fleeing in the face of 1,000,000 to 1 shot. Because you say there's still a shot. There's still one shot in there. And I'm going to go for it. And how I go for it and how I show that in defeat or victory, as they say, how I perform, what it reveals about my character will echo through an eternity. And when you believe that, you're unstoppable.
Right.
You're unstoppable.
Yeah. The only variable you control is your mind and then the actions you choose to take. You can't control the 1,000,000 to 1 coming at you. You can't control your opponent. You can't control the danger, the disease, the bankruptcy, the divorce, the whatever is hurting you. You can't control that coming to your life. You can control standing up to it. Even if it beats you, you didn't submit. And that's what the whole thing is about. You did not say that you quit. You just did. You see how I wouldn't even say those words? I'm very careful about what I say. I wouldn't even say those 2 words that I blank, I don't even talk that way. And I know that's pretty eccentric of me, but I don't say those things.
Dude, there was an Indian guy named Gandhi who it's funny. Here's where the who part comes in. Who was shot and killed by another Indian guy at point blank.
Right.
Who won? If we're playing this like it's a video game, in the simplest sense, a combat game, well, obviously the guy who shot him won. But who won? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's like, who won was him. It was the way he lived his life. It was what he did. And this is what people don't understand, right? Your character, your trials reveal your character. We are all out there. We're out on a limb, as they say. When we're doing this, we try to, the most important thing we can do is be disciplined and do our job every single day and not let the emotion completely erode us, not get lost. Like whenever I find myself, and Gabe and I have talked about this, whenever I find myself spending too much time, not even too much time, but anytime sometimes, getting lost in things I can't control on the internet or like what's going on, I remind myself that the reason why people are backing our books is because they have faith that we are going to get them a great product. And I have faith and confidence that that's exactly what's going to happen. And that book, my wife always says this to me. She goes, that book is not, it gets done by sitting at the desk and drawing. And that's where our heads need to be. That's how it gets done. Right. And it's funny too, because that's what I tell everybody whenever I'm talking. Like they go, are you streaming? The doors to the room are shut. I go, no, I'm working and I'm focused. I got to shut everything out and do my job. Right. And I'll do every job in front of me till I don't have that job anymore. Yeah. That's it. But until then, I better be all in. I can't be thinking about what's next, because what's that quote? Oh gosh, worrying doesn't remove tomorrow's problems. It removes today's strength.
Right. Yeah. My Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor, everyone should have his book called Meditations. It's his journal of philosophy. And he said the best way to keep intrinsic motivation, that's self-motivated, not external, someone yelling at you, is to focus on the current step. Yep. Do not worry about yesterday. Do not worry about 10 minutes from now. What are you supposed to be doing right now? Yeah. That's it. That's it. If you do life one bite at a time, you can do anything. Because anything, no matter how big it is, it has molecules. It has things it's made of. If you can just eat one molecule at a time, you can eat a blue whale. Of course you can. Of course you can. You can eat the whole thing. It's going to take a while, but are you telling me you can't take one bite at a time? That's stupid. Of course you can. So it is. I think it's so important to understand that you live in your mind. That's where we all are. We're experiencing consciousness, and it's what you can control. You can't control the universe outside of you. You can control your attitude, and your attitude is, okay, I see this, it's bad or it's good or whatever. Here's how I react. That's what you can control. So control.
You're absolutely right. And I was wondering if I even had it near me where I could grab it. But you've seen the thing I rest my hand on when I draw. It's got a Marcus Aurelius quote and it's got an Epictetus quote. And the thing about Epictetus people don't know is he started his life as a Greek slave and then became one of the great Roman philosophers until Rome kicked all the philosophers out. But he influenced Marcus Aurelius. And there's and he had a what they called back in the day a lame leg. There was a problem with his leg. And the story goes that when he was a young slave, he was being disciplined, and the guy put his leg in a machine to break it on purpose. Put his leg, in a lever or whatever it was to break it. And he said, he goes, if you continue, and the person said, well, what are you going to do? And he says, and Epictetus said, if you continue to do this, you're going to break my leg. And the guy did and broke his leg. And he goes, you see, it is how I had said. that is some gangster stuff right there, man. And that is the mentality to where it's bigger than it's big. The way that your character gets revealed and how you stand up for things is so much more important. And by the way, it is not looking for trouble, and it is not going out there and jumping into other people's fights to which you have no immediate reason for it, for ego's sake. Do you get what I mean? I'm not talking about you see some woman getting mugged and you say to yourself, it's not my fight. I'm talking about you're in a situation to where you're kind of like going, yeah, I hate that dude. What are we talking about? I'm talking about that
being a busybody. Just being a busybody.
Yeah, whatever it is, right? And in reality, I always say that I used to do this thing with my students, and I think that this is a great exercise for anybody, guys, is I used to say, all right, make a list of everything that you hate about this world. Everything you hate about this world. Now take another list and make, and I'm going to give you, I think it was, I said, I'm going to give you 1 minute or 2 minutes to do it. Everybody's writing like crazy. Then I write a list of everything that you don't like about yourself. And I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Boom. Pencils are going. Big list. Then I would go, all right, now I'm going to give you 7 minutes to write everything you like about the world.
Right.
Go. Pencils. People were just looking around them. Like, oh, what? And I go, okay, now I want you to write 7 minutes again, everything you like about yourself. In less time, the lists with things they didn't like about themselves and things they didn't like about the world were just going. They were like proud of it, how quick they could write that stuff down. But when you ask them, not your fault, not what's this, what do you like about yourself, or what do you love? What are your dreams? Dead stop. And if that's where your mentality is, you need to exercise that. It's like skipping leg day.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's actually the more important thing is to be able to come up with a list of things you're grateful for, things that you're happy to have, the time that you have, because thinking about what time you don't have is going to rob you of the time you currently have. Thinking about what you don't like and don't want to spend money on and what you don't support is going to take away time where your industry, the world needs you, where your industry and investment in things could actually bend the arc of the way things are going. Did they know that Rocky was going to do that? No, but by God, they tried.
Right.
And that's why it works.
Yeah, I don't know that Truth, Justice, American Way will save someone's marriage or from suicide. That's my aim. That is my aim with the book, to inspire people to not quit, because the story we're telling is harrowing. You know, it's harrowing. We're taking these heroes to zero. We're crushing them into dust, and then they come back. I mean, I'm not spoiling anything. You know that every good hero's journey is that way, that the people are defeated utterly, but not quite. There's that glimmer of hope, and then they stand up, and the first person you have to stand up to is yourself, because it's you that's telling you to quit, because you're the only one who can decide to quit. But really quickly, the green screen's getting it. But yeah, get a hold. I keep this right by my desk. The Emperor's Handbook. They also have it on audiobook. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most brilliant men to ever live. I mean, my first book obviously is the Bible, but as masculinity and stoicism, this guy pretty much nails it. Does he know everything? No man does. But this is fantastic. The Emperor's Handbook, Marcus Aurelius. And I do think, I won't play the video, but I'll just add it. So that was a bit to the freeze frame. It was a little, that was Grandpa Rocky there again. This is my father-in-law, Grandpa Wiley, both Navy men. And that was a surprise 70th birthday for Wiley, the man with the goatee. The other man, he's 92 years old, Rocky. What do I owe them? When I don't want to do the right thing, when I want to ruin DC Comics with Jim Lee's horrible leadership there, where they want to make all this woke garbage and he just doesn't say anything. What do I owe these two men when I'm sitting there and I'm going to make those kind of books? I can't do that. I can't do things like that. And I have to stand up to me, because the paycheck's easy. The accolades, the prestige. I work on Batman. I work on Superman. Jim Lee was my favorite artist when I was 12. I wanted to work for him, and he hired me personally. He hired me. DC didn't hire me. He did. And I had to push that out of my life. Do you know how hard that was?
Yeah.
But when I think about what I owe these men and all the others, men and women and all, and not even just my relatives, but everyone that came before, when I think about what I owe them, I can't and could conscious do that. So my Rocky story, I guess, is standing up to that. Standing up to Hollywood. It's very alluring, Hollywood. Are you kidding me? Of course it is. It's so glamorous and whatever. But I just had to say, no, I don't care that I dreamed of working for Marvel and DC since I was 12. It's not more important to me than my integrity. You know, it's not.
Yeah. I think that it's very well put, man. And it's like when I walked away from what I walked away, when I walked away from an 18-year career in academia, it sounds great. You know what I mean? Like, if this is a movie and there aren't consequences, it sounds great. And I always tell people, I mean, when people will talk to me about it and they go, wow, dude, that's amazing. Yeah. I said, but let's be clear, probably under your breath or in your mind, you're thinking, I wouldn't do that shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like, that's
look at my peers in the mainstream. I know many of them that are conservative, patriotic, Christian, and they're taking the paycheck. They're taking the money. Sure.
And this is the thing about it, though, guys. And this is the thing that is, I don't know, that is so beautiful about it, is that what will happen if we don't try to be good people and do our best. One of the least favorite quotes of all time, and it's a quote that was meant to be cynical, that people picked up from the Nolan trilogy, and it was meant to not be true. It was something somebody said. You either, die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. That's actually not, that's a false dichotomy. It's not true at all.
You know what I mean? It's a really well-written sentence that's BS.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It sounds so true, but it's not,
And it's one of those things to where it's comforting, because all you have to pitch to someone is, well, you don't want to die, do you?
Right.
And villainy is inevitable. and the only thing that prevents you from becoming a villain is death. The reality is you can choose every single day, every single moment to behave and live in the best way that you possibly can, to stand up for things and not let the poison of resentment or not do things to get back at people. Resentment is drinking poison, waiting for the other person to die. You can choose today, right, to do something to where you can decide, in Adrian's case, I'm going to take my glasses off because I can't see, which is a big thing with my glasses, or people can't see me with my glasses. I see out, but they can't see in. I'm going to let my hair down. I'm going to, stop pondering what it is, what this guy thing is I know nothing about.
Right.
And I want to at least risk knowing what it's about so that I can live my life. And so what I would say to people is, what I love about it is there was always those jokes where people would make, what in Karate Kid, what if, you flip the story and Johnny Lawrence was the hero, because we love to make the villains the heroes in things. But when they did Cobra Kai, they made Johnny Lawrence a human being.
Yeah.
And they made, oh my gosh, Daniel LaRusso a human being. And they had conversations. And it's about the realization that there is no good guy karate dojo and no bad guy karate dojo.
Right.
It's a myth. There are bad mentor figures, good mentor figures. And just because you had a bad mentor figure who broke your trophy and tried to choke you to death, just because you had that.
That was insane, by the way.
It was insane, man. Everybody's about a dude like that.
Hold on. I'll interrupt you, but I'll let you go. Johnny Lawrence is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe that's next week's movie, because my goodness, those are good movies. Anyway, go ahead.
Those are great movies. Those
you
are great
were
movies.
saying there's not the good and bad dojo. It's the individual teacher that can, be that way. Individuals are bad. But go ahead.
And what does most people don't know this? What is Johnny Lawrence's last line of dialogue in The Karate Kid, the first film? What is his last bit of dialogue?
I don't know, but if I had to guess, it's like something yelling at Creel and running off or something. What does he say?
No, he shakes his hand and says, "You're all right." He gives him respect.
Oh.
It's in the crowd because a lot of people don't hear it.
Oh. Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
I didn't know that.
And so he's like, "You're all right." And he's like, "Yeah," or I forget exactly what it is, but
right.
It's some version of that.
Oh.
And then he lifts up the trophy.
Oh, I had no idea.
This is the fascinating thing. And by the way, you start to really see, funny enough, if you're not coaching it, you're allowing it. When he goes, "There's no such thing as bad students. There's only bad teachers. Teachers say, student do." Like Miyagi's pointing this stuff out.
Right.
And I always think about this stuff, where we look at this kind of stuff, guys. Everybody in CG, the first thing, the easy thing to do, and it's not a bad,
I'm sorry, it's a non sequitur.
But it's right.
But it made me laugh so hard.
Exactly.
Like, someone is challenging Luna.
Yeah, I felt that. Yeah, I felt that sense of in Dazed and Confused with the "I want to dance." I felt that moment there. Do you know?
Yeah.
But I don't like Spider-Man 3, but it'd be cool if I did. It's got that. But I look at this stuff from a standpoint of we're 5 years, that staggers me to think about, but we're 5 years into Comicsgate. We're 5 years into CG.
Right.
A lot of things are going to expand. Things are going to, go in their many directions that they always go in. But at the end of the day, the thing about it is that we have started to evolve from a movement about conflict, like a movement about, you don't know me, Dad, kind of thing, to these corporations, to where we actually have to stand on our own feet, where we're saying, you're doing it wrong, which is a very easy thing to say in any group, in any generation. The harder thing is to go do it right. And I guess that's the thing when we were asking those questions about what happened with the generation, the baby boomers after the Greatest Generation. It was really, really simple. They didn't understand where any of the stuff came from because they were being sheltered and protected from it. Yeah. And so they said to their parents, "I don't like having any rules because I want to be free. The kids are everything, da, 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 da." Then they got to a certain point when they became parents where they go, "I can do it. I'm not going to do it like my parents did. I never understood why my dad was so distant." Well, he was distant because he was hoping he wouldn't. Anybody who goes through something difficult knows this. You feel contagious. You're worried that your kids are going to catch your trauma. that you've been through, that all those awful things you've seen are somehow going to filter into them.
Yeah.
And they were distant for a reason, because they'd seen people your age be destroyed, right? And so these kids come up and they go, well, I'm going to do it better. I'm going to have no rules. Yeah, you're all right, LaRusso. That's what it was. Thank you. And then he hands Daniel the trophy. I wish, like, these are the things I notice in movies that are so important, that are the whole point of the movie. Right. And, you know, so what you have is, you have all these people going, I'm going to do it better. I'm going to be my kid's friend. I'm not going to be strict. I'm not going to do whatever. And then you see what comes of that. Right. So it's not about doing it different. It's about or reacting to what you experienced and doing the quote opposite, because there could be some things in there that are useful. Like, how much time do we spend talking about, right? No, but it's true. Like, what is at DC Comics as a whole, or Marvel Comics as a whole? There are some great characters. Now, do these people create them? No. There are some things that, now, granted, maybe the last 10 years aren't there as much, but there were some traditions of passing down skill and knowledge that led to the growing of this industry.
Right.
And there were a lot of things that made it work. All those years it did work.
Right.
Now, we don't want to act like we're starting from zero. We want to learn some of those things.
I would never want to start from zero.
Exactly.
To me, that's anathema to the conservative mindset. The conservative mindset is cherishing the people that built everything before you, and understanding knowledge only comes through experience. It does not come from books. Because people say, you can learn from books. Like, no, dummy. Where did the books get their information? From experience. Like, you could have scientific notation in a book, but eventually you'll get back to, it was done in a lab, and then they wrote it down, and then they wrote the book. We only know things because they were actually done. So when we deny that our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, go back 1,000 years, know anything, they're stupid, they're old-fashioned Neanderthals. No. All the knowledge we have now is an accumulation. It's an accretion of knowledge. We don't suddenly, we're banging two rocks together, and then we're on the moon in a spaceship. Yeah. No, there was a whole, you know what I mean? There was a whole timeline of all sorts of innovation. And the one innovation is just built off the ones before it. So when you reject the conservative mindset, what at its heart to me, conservatism is, at its absolute heart to me, I'll tell you what I think is, it's gratitude. Yeah. It's gratitude for what has been done for me, and realizing that it was bled for and it's precious. And when you're postmodern and far leftist, I don't mean normal democratic sane people, far left cancel culture weirdos, they don't appreciate the thousands, if not millions of years of human history. I don't know what the truth is on that. I believe the Bible, but to me, it's not clear how long we've been here, and it's unimportant to me also. But the point is, they don't appreciate that this stuff has taken thousands of years to figure out, and then they can just, no, I don't agree with all of the experience in history. I have my own idea today. And that's just making yourself God. That's making yourself have perfect, absolute knowledge, and it's so wrong. And
you need to watch Mike Tyson talking to Bill Burr about this exact same conversation. Right. But you got to read Jared Weaver's thing, because I was going to point this out.
Where is it?
Last comment, the very last comment. Karate Kid and Rocky.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Avildsen directed Karate Kid 1 and Rocky 1.
Yep.
Well, there you go.
This is the thing too, guys, and this is what it's about. If Comicsgate and these movements are about anything, and by the way, you are seeing this in the younger generation coming up, it is about uncovering wisdom from the nihilism and the complacency of the dominant nihilism you're seeing right now. So what happens, you know, when Luke Skywalker, what's happening in 1977 in the world of Star Wars? I like to imagine it is in 1977, because it sure looks like it does.
Well, they have those haircuts.
Exactly, those haircuts. They're like going, oh, that wizard's just a crazy old man. Oh, those things don't really matter. Like, we've forgotten, those things are gone. Their goal was to wipe out the idea that these things had ever happened. Right. And then he gets opened into this wisdom chain that has been broken and destroyed. Right. And his whole world opens. And the way you create a metaphorical weapon in a story is you take two existing mythological tools and you put them together. So in this case, you take the torch and the sword. The torch lights the way into the cave, and the sword takes down the monster. Right. You put them together and you get the weapon that cuts light into darkness. Right. And that is essentially, by the way, if you want to see someone holding a lightsaber, take a look at the Statue of Liberty.
Right.
When you look at this kind of thing, right, and you look at how these stories work, the thing for me about all of this stuff when I'm painting, when I'm working, is I'm not here to tell people there are no monsters. I'm not here to tell people there's no evil in the world. I'm not here to say that things aren't difficult, because I'm not here to insult the audience. I'm not here to say, who do you believe, me or your lying eyes? That's not what I'm here to say.
Right.
I'm here to say, with my comic, and I know with your comic, so what? Now what?
Yes.
You're right. There is. But what are you going to let it do to you? What are you going to let it do to you? Because are you going to affirm all of that horse shit that's out in the world? Or are you going to exist to help others question it and say, well, he doesn't act that way.
Yeah.
She doesn't act that way.
Right. Very insightful. Jeez Louise. Let me address this right here from Literature Devil. He's got a great channel too, by the way, guys.
Absolutely.
He says, things often become tradition because they benefited society. However, while the practice remains, the reason why tends to get lost. And again, that goes to appreciation. You know what I mean? That goes to appreciation. Nassim Nicholas Taleb wrote a series of 5 books called The Inserto. His most famous was the bestseller, The Black Swan. And he's a brilliant mathematician, a Wall Street guy, all this stuff. He's a wizard with math, so he understands probability. And one of the things he talks about is probability and tradition go together. He says he doesn't eat anything or drink anything that isn't 1,000 years old. And what he means by that is the item itself is not 1,000, but the practice of it is. And now we know, since people, drank wine for at least 1,000 years, we know everything it does, right? We know. We have trillions of samples of human beings drinking wine. We see what it does. We have trillions of samples of people eating olive oil. But you have a new drug, you have a new food, you have a new thing that's untested. We won't name anything.
Yeah.
Well, we're all going to find out what it does, but we won't know for a while. And I think
exactly
tradition is the same heuristic, where we say, okay, well, people did it all kinds of ways. And after thousands of years, they figured out this nuclear family is fantastic for the culture. We figured that out.
And I think where I would disagree is when there are innovations, though, and because I don't want us to sound like we're anti-science. When there's an innovation,
like this is science. This is
trial
this is
and error, though. If you look at the Slim Jim, hear me out. It is a new meat delivery system,
right?
And it comes in plastic. It's mostly lips and hooves. Fine.
Well,
I'll give you that.
Everything but the moo, as they say.
Everything but the meat. But here's what I love. Robert Rodriguez told this story that's one of his favorite stories, and he's had some moments. And it's a great story. Book of Boba Fett was not a great story, but what are you going to do, Robert? And this is the thing. He said there was this story of this husband who's cooking ham, and his wife says to him, he gets the ham out, and he cuts the sides off of the ham, puts it in the dish, and he goes cooking. She goes, "Why'd you cut the sides off the ham?" And he goes, "I don't know. That's what my mom always did when we were growing up." And so she calls up the mom, and she goes, "Hey, he's cooking ham, and cuts the sides off the ham whenever he cooks it. Why does he cut the sides off the ham?" And the mom goes, "I don't know. That's what my mom always did, was she cut the sides off the ham." She goes, "All right, fine." So she calls her mother. Mother answers the phone. "Yeah." Goes, "He was just cooking, and he cut the sides off the ham, and he said, because mom always did it. She said, because you always did it. Why'd you cut the sides off the ham?" And she says, "That's the only way I could get it to fit in the pan I had." And it's one of those things to where when the pan gets bigger, you have to understand that doesn't work for that. And so it's one of those things to where I think that when it comes to creating comic books, if you guys will back these books, if you guys will move these books forward for us, if you guys will make these books a success, we don't have to cut the sides off the ham just because that's what's always been done. We can get you the whole ham. This is not going to become the new Comicscape, by the way, slogan. Comicscape. We can get you the whole ham. You understand? We can get you the whole ham.
Before everything, but I got to address the ham. Before everything ended up on the internet, like the mid-90s, 95, 96, Jim Brewer and Tracy Morgan were regulars on Saturday Night Live in the early mid-90s or the mid-90s. And there was a scene they did in a grocery store fighting over a ham, and then they broke out into song. And in the song, it was like, "Give up the ham, Give up the ham. I have looked for this clip and I can't find it. And I want to see it so badly because I remember watching back when SNL was funny.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone says that The Simpsons used to be funny and SNL used to be funny. And I
Sure.
always wonder if that's a function of, is it me or is it the show? Because obviously I've grown and changed. And
Yeah.
but I do wonder anyway, but I want to find Give Up the Ham. So if anyone knows where I can find Jim Brewer and Tracy Morgan singing Give Up the Ham, please let me know.
We need it. You
Yeah.
know, and I think it's a very interesting thing because one of the hardest things about becoming Comicsgate in terms of and stepping out into the independent creative world is it takes you a little bit of time to realize what you are and aren't allowed to say, what you are and aren't allowed to do. By the way, oftentimes these aren't things that are, well, no one would say this. In fact, I think that is what the mainstream has become. You know, wouldn't it be funny if we did this? No one's ever thought of doing this. Or is it that people thought about it and said, well, that would be stupid? There's a whole difference, right? But we don't think about the fact of how we can bring different genres together. And my brother, Phil Diaz, recently went to go see to an Ohio museum. I think it's a Butler Museum is what it's called. And there was a Steranko show there. And Steranko was there. He got to spend time with Steranko. And Steranko was saying something really beautiful. And Phil mentions this on the stream I did last night. He goes, you know, that every shadow cover had to have, and I'm going to get it wrong, but it was something like, you know, danger, mystery, danger, and sexiness. Those were the 3 ingredients to my shadow covers. Now, if I were to apply that very simple principle, you know, to every, you know, book that you see on the stands, right, to everything, you would be shocked at how brilliant, you know, that is, like how much that tells you. And you just go, huh. And those are those simple little things that we get from the great philosophers, or those core foundational things we get from the philosophers. It's big, man.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to imagine what that would look like if everyone had that heuristic applied to it, every book on the stands.
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine woke Thor with that applied to it.
Yeah, I don't think it'd work. Yeah.
Someone has asked me a question I don't understand. Is that it, Gabe?
Let me see here. They were probably point out the skit here. Let's see.
Did someone have the skit? I don't see a link.
Oh, I don't see it here. Give us the hand, blah, blah. Find out. So many great obscure SNL skits are lost to history. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was first exposed to SNL like as a middle schooler. My brother's friend, Zach something, he recorded it on VHS and we watched some of it at his house.
We did that too. Yeah.
And it was right when they were before the movie of Wayne's World, but it had Mike Myers and Dana Carvey.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Sprockets, that weird like postmodern?
Now's the part on Sprockets where we dance.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Germany's most disturbing home videos.
Oh my gosh. One of the first skits I ever saw was Tom Hanks, and he was doing a microphone check at like a concert or a
mic check, sibilance.
Yeah, and he's like, sibilance. Chopping broccoli. Do you remember he was like singing about chopping broccoli? I don't even remember what the skit was about. I must have been 12 or something like that. I don't know. But and then I got into SNL in high school, and my SNL, everyone has theirs that was their favorite. Yeah. Mine was the one with Cherry O'Terry and Chris Kattan and Will Ferrell. This is like mid-late 90s, right around when I was like a high school senior, like 96, 97, 98. That was like my SNL. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Citizen Ronan is saying he tried to put a link in. I don't think you put a link in unless you're a mod, but I do appreciate you trying that.
Yeah, I mean, and guys, like this is the thing that we're all thinking about. I mean, when I got, you know, Kenneth Rocaford's Grogan, when I get, you know, all of these great books that we're getting in CG, when I get Patrick Thomas Parnell's action figures, you know, of Johnny Phantasm, we're creating great stuff. What's amazing is because, you know, if you think about it, it takes a lot of money for people to live a life off of their comics. It does. It takes it doesn't take an impossible amount of money that it does to run a corporation, but it takes a decent amount of money. And you guys, you know, and people talk about this all the time. All that every creator needs is 1,000 loyal fans. That's a high bar when you think about it. 1,000 loyal fans. But that is when you love your customers and you are excited to get them great products and you spend time with them like we do, it's not so impossible. And how great is it to have creators who want to put together something great for you and know that they don't hate you, that there's no agenda going on, that there's none of that stuff. And I think in a lot of ways, Rocky was a success like Star Wars was when nobody was looking. Nobody saw it coming, or they just stopped it. Oh, you're muted. Hang on. You're muted, Gabe.
Thank you. I muted it because I was digging around YouTube. I didn't want it to echo. But real quick, Bordeaux, Shanti, you're close to Knoxville. Question. Let's get a cigar.
I'm not, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm up in the East Coast in Rhode Island now, but I used to live in Chattanooga, so I would take you up on that. Believe me, I wouldn't tell the wife because I do like me a cigar. They're like Pringles.
So we have Nosfero, the Crypt Walker.
We just crossed 23K last night. The last of the head sketches sold. So that tier is gone. That used to be, I have to set another featured tier because we've now gotten rid of, you can still get the first 2 art books as an add-on. I think they're still available, but the art book plus the other book is sold out now. And the watercolor sketches right there, they were hanging on for a bit, but now 10 of 10 were claimed. And so there we are, guys.
Very good. Yeah, and I'm going to ask you guys. I mean, I'm so glad. I remember we were trying to get you to 300, and we're just dollars away from 52,000 guys. And I'm going to ask you guys directly. Let me get my beautiful face in here. I'm going to ask you guys directly to support me and David Williams and Gary Martin. Buy my book tonight. It's an amazing comic. I showed the trailer at the beginning, but what if the fake news canceled the world's most beloved heroes? And I'm asking you directly to support me, to support Dave, to support Gary, so we can keep doing this for you. And I appreciate all 815 of you that already have. So definitely check that out. The link is in the description, and I really want you guys to check this book out. Dave and I and Gary, we're definitely pouring our hearts into this, guys. This is that classic superhero action you've always loved. No agenda. The basic premise is the world's greatest heroes get canceled by the fake news, and they have to figure out who framed them for this horrific attack. And if they don't solve this mystery fast enough, and can they even trust each other when they're trying to figure it out? If they don't solve it fast enough, a way worse attack is coming and millions will lose their lives. So that's what this book is about. It's classic, dramatic superhero action, gorgeous art. And I'm asking you directly, support me, guys. Please support me. Buy this book tonight if you haven't bought it yet. Our second 30 days will be up soon. And I'm unsure if I'm going in demand because I've been told Indiegogo takes not a lot more, but they take more of the money when you're in demand. So I'm unsure if I'm going to go into it or not. So, here's a super chat. I have to honor that real quick. Max Santiago, what is the strategy the Comicsgate needs to get the next reader generation, like Japanese manga? We need to start thinking about that. Absolutely, Max. I think the first thing we have to do is just get our pace going. We have to be consistent. Then once we're consistent, we're making books, they're high quality, and they're delivered on time. Make books, high quality, deliver on time. We just keep repeating that, then we can start thinking about branching out. But if we can't even do that, we can't do anything. So you have my promise. You'll get my best work. You'll get Sean's best work. Yeah. And we absolutely. I mean, look at this.
And CG Now is a big part of that too. All the books that are out that are ready to rock and roll and ship, sharing that site with people. You're going to be on with Michael Bancroft tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm going to be on with Bancroft tomorrow. Yes.
And I know you guys all are probably subscribed. Someone, if Ahmad could drop a link to Michael Bancroft, his channel in the chat, that would be great. So you can see Gabe. Everybody come out for that. Make sure you watch that interview. He's great. He's great promoting books. He's a dear friend. And the guy who did the launch for No Sparrow on his channel, for heaven's sake. Right. And I have to say this, guys, too, is that, and I was just curious about this. I don't want to get too off topic, but the biggest thing about that manga question is making work that's entertaining. And as you guys know, when it comes to manga, when it comes to bande dessinée, those books are always in print. And sometimes with certain books, there is lag between them. But there's always a large collection of material to get a hold of for new readers. Right. And we're really putting our time into that. But I really have to say this, too. A big part of it is word of mouth. It's got to be cool. So we've got to look at our stuff and go, what can we do that subject matter, stylistic, like it's got to be full-throated creativity.
Right.
And if a movie like a small indie film out of Pittsburgh, like Night of the Living Dead, or any of the other films, Rocky, you know, any of these films that come out of nowhere can happen. It can happen in comics.
Right. And yeah, you're
Beautiful.
right. It has to be cool. It has to be high quality. I have the highest standards. David Williams has them. Gary Martin has them. Shant has them on his work. Yeah, I mean, you can look at my work here. You know, there are 3 of the books I worked for in the mainstream were Eisner nominated. 2 of them won. I'm top of the top. You're never going to get garbage from me. I don't make it. I don't make it. I'm not okay with it. I don't approve of it. I don't hack stuff out. That ain't the way. You know what I mean? We love this. I have so much fun making this stuff. So you're going to get absolute best from me. When is your official last day to back your book? Well, let me drag it off the screen so I don't dox anything. You guys can all look at Shant's campaign. And please support his. Please support his. Let me go dig around inside my account here. Campaign editor. Would it be under basics or content? What is it under? I'll find it here in a second. I think it's under basics. I'm not doxing, right? Okay, I'm not on
I don't
screen.
think so. Let me look.
I'm just looking at my feed here on Streamer. I'm not on screen.
Okay,
it says In Demand starts April 23rd at 12 a.m.
There you go.
The day, the 22nd, I think that's a Friday. Let me pull my calendar out.
Yeah.
I think that's a Thursday or Friday. That's a Friday. So Friday at midnight, this thing could be done. I don't know if I'm going in demand. I need to find out how. Do you know how much they take, Shant, once you go in demand?
I don't know. I'm not sure, honestly.
Okay, have you ever gone in demand?
Oh, I'm in demand right now. But you know, I'm in that zone we were talking about. I don't know whether to scratch my watch or wind my behind right now. It's just I'm going from 24-hour cycle of drawing to 24-hour cycle. You know,
right. Well, let me ask you this. So I go with this book until the 23rd, and then they'll give me the money like 2-3 weeks later, whatever, something like that.
Yeah. Then
I go in demand. Will they give me money like every month, or will they give me
every
money
month? Yeah, I think that's we get it at the end of every month. We get whatever we've made in demand, and it's a nice little, you know, it's a nice way to kind of you have everything all together, you know, and have it where people know to get it. But it's your call. What I will say this to you guys about this stuff is, it is great for people to see these campaigns when they close out their first, 60 days, and before whatever happens. To see a good number there. And I know that there's going to be a smashing, closeout stream. We're going to have a great time promoting this book and celebrating it all. And this is about.
Are you going to eat a whole pound cake again?
I will take one for the team if I have
to. Will you eat a pound of pound cake?
It could happen. You'll have to tune in to see, guys. If you missed that 30-day stream, let me tell you, we had a blast. It was so great. And this is the thing about it too. And I have this question too. I don't know if you've talked to him about this. Are you guys is there going to be a pinup of one of your characters in the CG Vacation book?
I think so. I think John Malin wanted truth in his book. And then Diaz has not approached me, but he said it on the stream the other day. He said, all of you Comicsgate Kings, we're going to have your stuff in there. So I think he'll approach me. If he does, he does. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do it. So, yeah. But absolutely, I'm asking you directly to support me, support this book. Please buy this book, guys. If you love that description I gave you, then I definitely want you'll love buying this book, guys. I really would cherish that, and I'm very grateful for everybody who already has. So, is there anything else we need to say about Rocky? I think we've said it all, and I think we're doing Karate Kid next week, right?
Yeah, we should. And I'm going to say this. That's the thing we're going to say about Rocky, guys. Watch it. Watch that movie. And I mean that sincerely, and watch it with the understanding that if you've ever watched it before, watch it again. If you haven't ever watched it, watch it now. Don't wait. And we're not getting paid by Stallone, although Sly, if you're out there. No, listen, it's this is what it's about. 1976 is right now. This is a moment where if the independent films, the independent creators decide to say what nobody else is saying, and it's not some drastic conspiracy. When people don't have the words, it's not a conspiracy that they don't say them. But when you guys back the people who have the words, this is how culture changes. It could be a couple of guys up in some weird state I didn't know about when I was growing up in Tennessee called Massachusetts, or Maine at that time, creating a couple of Ninja Turtles, and it takes over everything. And all of a sudden, people have got this mentor figure called Splinter, and they've got this heroism idea, and they're watching this cartoon, and they're all saying, "This is the turtle I identify with," and all that other stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? It's this is it, guys. And you guys are here. You're going to be the people who say, I was there that was the greatest independent movement in comics in my lifetime. And I was there. I was in the thick of it backing books. Those issues that there aren't a lot of copies of, I have them. One of my favorite Comicsgate creators, Dan Plagle, who does The Goblin Girl, pulled out a stack, guys, a legit stack of first printings of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, which he bought at a comic shop when they were in the discount bin, because the guy was getting rid of them.
Oh, man.
And I was like, what? You have these?
Wow, that's amazing. I wish I had those. I just have the reprints from 1990. Those
they
were like little trade paperback reprints.
Oh, but I love those, man.
Treasure at an estate sale, I think, or an older gentleman. It was like Avengers issue 4 and the first Captain America. I got a stack of Marvels from the early 60s. Couldn't believe it. Yeah, couldn't believe it. I wish I had those Ninja Turtles. That sounds amazing.
And let me say this too, guys. One of my first crushes ever in a movie was Elizabeth Shue in The Karate Kid.
I thought you were going to say Donatello.
Close. Allie with an I, as she was known.
Right.
And I texted my wife just the other day and said, "You're my Allie with an I." And I always tell her this, is that it's like, I love that movie, and it's so great. And I think about how something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Karate Kid and all this stuff, we're still talking about. These were little films people did not think were going to go gangbusters. Right. Nobody thought that. And, nobody thought Cyberfrog was going to break $1 million. Nobody thought Jawbreakers was going to do what it does. But we can't just have, Comicsgate or any movie. Oh.
Hey, whoa. It's a family show. Calm down.
Let me tell you something. What that movie taught you. Let me lean in for a second, kids.
That was way too real.
I'm going off script here, kids. Look at me. Look into my eyeballs, kids. Listen to me. This movie is not about karate. This movie is not about stamina. This movie is not about fighting. It's a story about a 98-pound brown kid getting a heavier, voluptuous blonde, and that's okay. We're not going to judge him.
Right.
Thick thighs save lives. She likes soccer. She likes the football. And we love you, Allie with an I. Never forget.
Right. But we'll get into that next week. This week, it's all right. It's all Stallone.
Beautiful movie, man.
Yeah.
Beautiful movie.
What an inspiring movie. We'll do more Rocky movies.
We'll
get into the Karate Kid. What a great time in American cinema and all that. Geez. But I think you're right. Your hopefulness is we're in that late 70s ugly, divided funk. And I think we're about to I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it anyway. We're about to make America great again, Sean.
Yeah. You know what happened? DC and Marvel looked at us, and they're our Apollo Creed, and they say, yeah, the industry, the world, the fans said, hey, well, you got to have some opponent, guys. And they're like, well, we'll give these guys a chance.
Right.
And this is we're going the distance. And we're at this point in our careers where we're like, we've got the skill. We've put in the gym hours. Now we're going to dare to be great. And you guys are doing the same thing. You are daring to be great with us.
Right.
That's it.
Amazing, right? I would rather not. I wouldn't rather be anywhere else.
Absolutely.
And the answer to this question is, of course.
Yes, for heaven's sake.
Of course. We'll do Rambo, of course. But we're going to get to the Karate Kid. Love you guys. Buy my book.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Buy it tonight. You know what? Wednesday night is a perfect night to buy Truth, Justice, American Way and Nosferatu. Wednesday night is perfect for it.
It is.
So anyway, we thank you guys. We'll see you next week with the Karate Kid. Have a great night, okay?
Absolutely.